Prejudice, published in 1813, is Jane Austen's most famous novel. Set in the early 19th century English countryside, it follows the emotional journey of Elizabeth Bennet, a sharp, independent young woman, as she navigates love, class, and personal growth. The novel is rich in satire, societal pressure, and deep character evolution. And at the heart of it lies a question: can love survive pride and overcome prejudice? Part 1. The Bennet family and the arrival of Mr. Bingley. The story begins in Longbourn, Hertfordshire, where Mr. and Mrs. Bennet live with their 5 unmarried daughters, Jane, Elizabeth, Mary, Kitty, and Lydia. With no sons, the estate is to be inherited by their distant cousin, Mr. Collins. Mrs. Bennet is desperate to find wealthy husbands for her daughters to secure their futures. Excitement begins when Mr. Charles Bingley, a charming and wealthy bachelor, moves into the nearby estate of Netherfield Park. At the Merryton ball, Bingley takes an immediate liking to Jane, the eldest Bennet daughter. But accompanying Bingley is his proud and reserved friend, Mr. Fitzwilliam Darcy. Elizabeth overhears Darcy dismissing her as not handsome enough to tempt me. This remark sows the seeds of her prejudice. Part 2. Darcy's pride and Elizabeth's prejudice. Elizabeth's dislike for Darcy deepens when she meets the dashing Mr. Wickham, a soldier who claims Darcy cheated him out of an inheritance. Elizabeth believes him completely. Meanwhile, Mr. Collins, the pompous clergyman who will inherit the Bennet estate, proposes to Elizabeth, but she firmly refuses. Instead, Collins marries her friend Charlotte Lucas, who accepts him out of practicality, not love. Bingley suddenly leaves for London, breaking Jane's heart. Elizabeth blames Darcy for interfering in their relationship. Envelope Part 3. Darcy's first proposal and the letter. Elizabeth visits Charlotte and Mr. Collins at their new home, where she unexpectedly meets Darcy again. To her shock, Darcy confesses his love and proposes marriage, but in a proud, arrogant way. Elizabeth angrily rejects him, accusing him of destroying Jane's happiness and mistreating Wickham. The next day, Darcy delivers a heartfelt letter explaining the truth. He did advise Bingley to stay away from Jane because he thought she didn't love him back. As for Wickham, he reveals that Wickham tried to elope with his 15-year-old sister, Georgiana, for her fortune. Elizabeth is stunned. She realizes her own prejudice has clouded her judgment. Part 4. Transformation. Elizabeth's view of Darcy begins to shift. Later, while traveling with her aunt and uncle, she visits Pemberley, Darcy's grand estate. There, she is surprised by his kindness, humility, and generosity, especially to the servants and to her relatives. Their conversation is warmer now, gentler, softer. But disaster strikes when Elizabeth receives news that Lydia, her youngest sister, has run off with Wickham. This scandal threatens the entire Bennet family's reputation. Ring Part 5. Darcy's redemption and the happy ending. Secretly, Darcy tracks down Wickham, pays off his debts, and arranges for Lydia to marry him, saving the Bennets from shame. Elizabeth later learns of Darcy's quiet act of heroism. Her feelings have completely changed, she now respects and loves him. Meanwhile, Darcy helps Bingley and Jane reunite. Bingley proposes to Jane, and she accepts. Finally, Darcy proposes to Elizabeth again, this time with sincerity, humility, and deep love. And this time, she says yes. The novel ends with 2 marriages, Jane and Bingley, Elizabeth and Darcy. It's not just a romantic conclusion, it's the triumph of maturity, emotional growth, and true understanding. Themes and symbolism. Studio microphone. Pride versus prejudice. Both Darcy and Elizabeth are guilty, he of pride, she of prejudice. Their growth lies in overcoming these flaws. Class and marriage. Austen critiques a society where marriage is more economic transaction than emotional bond. Women's roles. Through Elizabeth, Austen offers a rare 19th century female character who values intellect and integrity over social pressure. Reputation and family. The Bennets' reputation threatens everything, reminding us how society judged women harshly. Now let's look at some important long-answer questions based on Pride and Prejudice. These are ideal for BA English exams, DO, SOL papers, and UGC NET prep. Q1. Discuss the theme of Pride and Prejudice in Jane Austen's novel. Answer. The central theme of the novel lies in the title itself, Pride and Prejudice. Mr. Darcy represents pride, especially class pride, and Elizabeth Bennet represents prejudice, formed by first impressions and false narratives. Darcy initially looks down on Elizabeth due to her lower social standing, while Elizabeth misjudges Darcy based on Wickham's lies and his aloofness. However, as the novel progresses, both characters go through emotional growth. Darcy humbles himself, and Elizabeth becomes more open-minded. Their love becomes possible only after overcoming these internal barriers. Austen uses their journey to show that personal growth and understanding are essential for true connection, and also criticizes rigid class prejudices of 19th century England. Q2. How does Jane Austen portray the role of women in marriage in the novel? Answer. In Pride and Prejudice, Austen paints a realistic and critical picture of women's roles in 19th century society. For most women, marriage was the only path to security and respectability. Through Mrs. Bennet's desperation, Charlotte Lucas's practical marriage to Mr. Collins, and Lydia's reckless elopement, Austen shows the limited choices available to women. In contrast, Elizabeth represents a modern ideal. She refuses to marry for convenience, instead seeking love, respect, and equality in marriage. By rewarding Elizabeth and Jane with loving partners and exposing the flaws in marriages based on money or lust, Austen supports the idea that marriage should be based on compatibility and respect, not just economics. Q3. Examine the character of Elizabeth Bennet as a feminist figure. Answer. Elizabeth Bennet is one of the most iconic and progressive female characters in literature. She is intelligent, witty, independent, and unafraid to speak her mind. Unlike many women of her time, she is not eager to marry for money or social security. She refuses Mr. Collins's proposal, even though it could have saved her family's estate, and later refuses Mr. Darcy's first proposal due to his pride in the way he insults her family. This shows self-respect and moral strength. Elizabeth's character challenges traditional gender roles. She chooses growth, honesty, and self-awareness over societal expectations. In many ways, Elizabeth can be seen as a proto-feminist figure, paving the way for strong female voices in literature. Q4. How is social class depicted in the novel? Answer. Social class is a major theme in Pride and Prejudice. The novel shows how class divisions control marriage, behavior, and social interaction. Characters like Lady Catherine de Bourgh and Caroline Bingley represent the upper class, who look down on the middle-class Bennets. Darcy, though wealthy, eventually rises above his class prejudices, while others like Lady Catherine never do. Austen uses satire to show how social class creates unjust limitations, especially for women and the poor. By allowing Elizabeth and Darcy's love to overcome class boundaries, Austen promotes merit, morality, and personal worth over birth and status. Pride and Prejudice is more than a love story. It's about recognizing our blind spots, learning to change, and finding love based not on wealth or appearance, but on respect and equality. If you enjoyed this detailed summary, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'll be covering more classics and self-help books to help you grow as a reader and thinker.